We inherit so much from our families, from the color of our eyes to our last names. And on the surface, we appear so different. We've gone through different things, we have different lifestyles, and we've survived different struggles. But as a society, we are so judgmental. We judge each other for staying in the same toxic relationship for way too long. We judge ourselves for making the same choices that hurt us again and again, even when we know better. But what if these choices didn't start with us? What if these choices started generations ago and we're just still repeating the same patterns from long and long ago? When we were kids, our brains were like sponges, and we were absorbing everything around us, from how people love to how they fight to what felt safe and what felt normal. Scientists call this time in our life the theta brainwave state, and that's a fancy way of saying a very deep, absorbent state of learning. We're in this state until we're about 7 years old. In this state, we're learning what love looks like, what safety feels like, and what life even is. We're learning our entire belief system that we take with us for the rest of our lives. I wanted to tell you today about my experience with generational cycles and how they affected my own life. When I was in my early 20s, I found myself in a relationship where I was giving everything that I had, and I thought I was doing the absolute best for my children. I learned from my mother to sacrifice everything for your kids. You give all of your happiness and mental health to a person in order to make your kids happy, so that they have their whole family under one roof, so that they have a home and a yard, and what your needs and everything that you need and want in life doesn't matter as long as your kids are happy and safe and healthy. But that's not actually what made my kids happy or healthy or safe. I was actually making their life so much worse, because I was repeating the same cycle that my mother and her mother and her mother had been repeating for generations. And this cycle I'd been repeating that I had no idea, but it was domestic violence. The night that I almost lost my life to domestic violence, my kids were all home. They were all in their beds except for my son, who I was holding at the time. And I thought I was taking my absolute last breaths with my son crying next to me, and I had the biggest wake-up call of my life, and that was everything I thought I was doing right for my kids, everything I thought I was working so hard to give them this really good life, I was actually ruining their lives, because this is what they were going to inherit. They were going to inherit chaos and letting people walk all over them and being controlled, and the same thing that my mother had passed down to me and her mother had passed down to her, and so on and so forth. And if I didn't wake up and get out of this controlling relationship, then I would be giving the same thing to my kids. And even if I got out of that relationship and got into another one, it would be the same thing over again. So the next day, I did the hardest thing of my whole life, and I walked away with no support system, with a body that was still healing, and with a nervous system that was on high alert, and I had to choose to heal in front of my kids. They had to watch me hit rock bottom and do it all by myself. I thought that I was too late to heal generational cycles and that my kids were already doomed, because I thought that was something you did before you had kids, and that I had already passed all this stuff down because, epigenetics shows us that DNA can pass down trauma, and I thought I was too late. But I was so far from the truth. My kids got to watch me change in the most powerful ways. They got to see what courage looks like and what respect feels like, and I got to see them change with me, which was the most empowering and brave thing I've ever done. Now my kids are so brave and strong, and I got to see them grow a backbone just like I did. And they are the most outspoken, loud, amazing kids ever, and I don't think that they would have had the courage to do a lot of the things that they're doing had they not seen me make those changes on my own, with nobody in my corner backing me up in the process. When we choose to heal, we're not just changing our own patterns, we're changing the generations that come after us. Even if we already had kids, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter how many times you've repeated the old cycles, it doesn't matter how many mistakes you've already made in life. You're never too late to change those things. You don't know who's watching you, you don't know how you're affecting people in your life, strangers, family, people who see you on the internet are inspired by the changes that you make and the things that you do, and they're ready to take action because of the things that they see you do. People in my life were inspired by what I did, those 10 seconds of bravery I had that night to call for help and change my life and start over from literally nothing. Inspired people in my life to look at their own lives and make changes in the cycles that they were repeating, how they inherited their dad's anger or their mom's lack of, ambition to do things in life, or, wanting to do things their own way instead of the way that their family's always done it. Changing your cycles and your ways are inspiring people in ways way beyond what you have any idea how you affect them. So if you leave with anything today, I just want you to know that the story that you inherited does not have to be the one that you leave behind. One person can change generations of cycling. One choice can change generations. You can leave any inheritance, one of courage, of love, of self-respect, and it can start with one choice that you make today. Thank you.